I've always been obsessed with roller coasters. There's just something about the way they defy gravity, defy death, rush you to the very brink, teetering at the edge where anything can go wrong. Yet somehow everyone returns safe and sound at the end. At least most of the time, right? There are some roller coasters that have been famously dangerous, like the Jet Line in Sweden, a popular coaster that ran for decades. But after replacement parts weren't properly tested, one of the coaster's trains derailed, fatally. Or at Six Flags, where a restraint on the Texas giant coaster came undone and a woman was flung from the ride to her death. In my town, there's a small Six Flags-style theme park. I won't tell you the name, but you've probably heard of it in the news recently. In any case, it's mostly rides and carnival games. I've been an operator there for the past few months, but there's one roller coaster that no passengers are allowed to ride. It's funny because I see them test running it all the time. One day I even went and asked a fellow staff member, Markisha, when they were going to open the new coaster. She said never, and I couldn't tell if she was serious or joking. I asked her again. She said with a shrug, Boss says the Ultimate has got some sort of bug. Anyway, fast forward a couple months and Markisha and I are kind of casually dating. She's nerdy, snarky, and a few years older than I am. We're pretty different, but maybe that's why we get along. One thing that unites us is our passion for roller coasters. The Ultimate still isn't open, and one afternoon she suggests that maybe we ride it ourselves after the park closes. Wait, for real? I exclaimed. Yeah, I mean, last time everything got safety checked, it passed all the checks. Plus, I saw someone on it yesterday when it was running. There's literally nothing wrong with it. I think it's just superstition the boss won't open it to the public. He's convinced it'll go wrong like the first time, he says. The idea of there being some flaw in the Ultimate's design that could be dangerous gave me pause. But Markisha was at least as well versed as I was in all the ways theme park rides can kill you. Any time there was news of another theme park death, we'd talk about whether it fit into our top 10. Mechanical failures, obviously, are big on our list. And design failures, like the water slide that decapitated a 10-year-old boy. Then there are human errors. We often argue whether to count fatalities from visitors, trespassing in fenced-off areas, and then getting whacked by mechanical parts. I don't really count these since, well, it's kind of like when people play on train tracks. Not to be mean about it, but in those situations you can't really blame the rides. Anyway, the Ultimate didn't have any mechanical issues or design flaws, so in theory it should be safe. Like Markisha had said, it had recently been tested for any engineering problems and passed with flying colors. It ran smoother than our flagship roller coaster, the Cobra. Neither Markisha nor I had pre-existing health issues, and the design of the Ultimate was nothing extraordinary. It had only one giant loop and further on a smaller one. Despite the name, it was actually less intense than the Cobra, our most popular coaster. Probably the coolest thing about it was its design. A jet black roller coaster with sinuous curves like a serpent. So anyway, Markisha and a friend of hers, Carlos, and I all agreed to meet after the park closed and try out the Ultimate. Staff was still cleaning up around the park, but it was deserted of visitors when I went to meet Carlos at the main entrance. I remember Carlos and I walking toward those ominous black loops of the Ultimate and seeing the coaster running as Markisha put it through one more test run. Either another employee or a test dummy was in it as it shot by. It was very fast. Not fastest in the world, but damned if it wasn't fastest in the park. Dude, that thing is awesome, exclaimed Carlos. When we got to the ride's entrance, Markisha told me everything checked out fine and that she and Carlos would go first. I started to object, but she said, Nah, I get first dibs. I'll run it for you again after. Woohoo, let's do this, said Carlos. Like all modern roller coasters, pretty much everything was automated after pushing the button for it to go. The main part of my job was the safety checks beforehand, making sure everyone was strapped in, nothing loose, no belongings to go flying off and hurt someone, etc. I sighed and performed the requisite safety checks on Markisha and Carlos, tugging their harnesses to make sure they were strapped in. The rest of the train was, of course, empty. Come on, let's go!" hooted Markisha. "Let's do this!" shouted Carlos. I pressed the button and sent them on their way. The coaster began, its 2 passengers shouting and waving, and slowly ascended the incline to the park's most precipitous drop. I watched, trying not to feel envy. Oh, I'd get my turn, but I burned with the desire to go first. I watched as that sleek black train climbed to the very top, hung for a moment at the peak and dropped like a bullet. Screams from my 2 friends as they plunged, their hands up waving, laughter on their faces as they flashed by, and then they were looping. I lost sight of them for a moment from the operator area, so I came out from under the roof and looked up. They were heading toward the second loop, but oddly there was another passenger, somewhere at the back of the train car, but I could have sworn it was empty when they boarded the ride. As they spiraled into the second loop, I waited for renewed screams and laughter, but the roller coaster looped silently, winding on this hypnotic track, and then taking the big slow circle around back to the start. Not a sound from it. The click-clack of the train's arrival, and then the hiss of brakes. At the front I could see Markisha and Carlos slumped in their seats. No one else in the train with them, and no movement from either of them. I did not immediately go to unbuckle them. I was too much in shock, because why weren't they moving? Were they both unconscious? Had they hit their heads, been jostled too hard? But the ride looked so smooth. Suddenly another infamous roller coaster came to mind, one that had been designed but never constructed. Markisha and I used to debate about whether it would be fantastic or terrifying to ride the euthanasia coaster. The idea is that 24 riders board and pass through 7 loops, and when the ride comes to a stop, they are all dead. The roller coaster's loops become tighter and tighter, the G-forces inducing prolonged cerebral hypoxia, insufficient oxygen to the brain. If you were a rider on it, you'd pass out and be dead before coming to the ride's end. To me, the concept is horrible. Markisha always said it would be a terrific way to die. I still didn't have the courage to approach her or Carlos. There was another staff member walking by outside the ride, pushing a drinks cart. I screamed for help. She came up and went to the roller coaster and swore, and then got on the phone. Emergency services arrived and unstrapped Markisha and Carlos. The next day, the park opened as normal. The incident didn't even make the news until much later, since there were no traumatized crowds or blood or cleanup. Just the 2 bodies unstrapped and quietly carried away, and a roller coaster that remained out of commission as it had always been. I'm haunted by the fact mine was the hand that pushed the button, but the ultimate was examined, and all test runs with dummies proved safe. There's no explanation. The ride remains closed due to the bug that Markisha mentioned to me back before. She decided we should try to ride it. The bug has become kind of an urban myth among the staff there. They test the coaster again every once in a while, running it without anybody on it. They never put anybody on it, but I learned later that the bug isn't a design flaw per se. What the boss calls the bug is actually a passenger, a rider that can always be seen in one of the seats near the back, even when the coaster runs with no one in it. A passenger who always appears after the first loop. At least it used to be a single passenger. Now there are 3. Join our community. Subscribe now and never miss a video.